Welcome back, students. So in the last video we discussed about motion and rest. Means if an object is changing its position with respect to the surrounding and during the passage of time, then we will call or then we will say that the object is in motion. So in this video we will discuss about different types of motion. Different types of motion means the object moves in various ways. So different types of motion is there. That is, first one, rectilinear motion. In light you studied about rectilinear propagation of light. What is that? Straight line propagation of light. So that's also if an object is moving along a straight line. If the object is moving along a straight line, then we will call it as rectilinear motion. Rectilinear motion. If an object is moving in a straight line, then we will call it as rectilinear motion. Here, an apple falling from a tree. When you drop any object, that object will move towards the earth. Means the earth will attract all objects towards the center and that object will be moving in a straight line. So that's an example for rectilinear motion. Then the march past of the soldiers in a parade. They also move in a straight line. That also an example for rectilinear motion. Then a car or a vehicle that is moving on a straight road. That is also an example for rectilinear motion. Then a bullet fired from a gun. A bullet fired from a gun. The bullet will move in a straight line. So that is also an example for rectilinear motion. The motion of the striker on a carom board. When you strike the striker on the carom board, it will move in a straight line. So that's an example for rectilinear motion. So rectilinear motion means this is the motion where objects move in a straight line. That is known as rectilinear motion. Then next one is circular motion. Means the object will be moving along a circular path or along the circumference of the circle. The object is moving along the circumference of the circle or along a circular path. So that type of motion is known as circular motion. Here you can see the movement of the satellite around the earth. It's also in a circular orbit. So that's also a circular motion. When you when you throw the hammer, before throwing it, you will just give a round. Okay. Or when you tie a thread to a stone and when you whirl it, that stone will move in a circular path. The stone will move in a circular path. Then this one, giant wheel, it's also moving in a circular path. Then here also this ox will move in along the circumference of a circle. So all these are examples for circular motion. Then a bull tied to a rope moving around a fixed pole. So that's an example for circular motion. A ceiling fan remains at one place but its blades move in the circular motion. So if you mark a dot in this in the blades of this fan, the movement of that dot, that's along a circular path. So that's about circular motion. This is the motion where the objects move in a circular path. That's known as circular motion. The next one is periodic motion. This type of motion where the object repeats its motion after a fixed time interval. The motion will repeat. Okay, that's after a time interval, the same motion will be repeating. So that is known as periodic motion. That's known as periodic motion, or the object will move, repeats its motion after some time. That's known as periodic motion. So this periodic motions produces sound. So this one is a pendulum. So when you release this pendulum from A, it will move to C, again it will come back to A, again it will move to C, again it will come back to A. So that motion is repeating after some time. The same way, the motion of a swing. The motion of a swing, that is periodic one. Then when the string of this guitar is stretched or it is plugged, it will start vibrating. It will start vibrating, and that's also a periodic motion. Musical instruments such as guitar, sitar have stretched string. When you pluck it, it will produce sound. When it is plucked, it starts to vibrate to and fro and shows periodic motion. So when you pluck it, it will produce sound and it will vibrate, means it will move to and fro motion. That is also known as periodic motion. Means to and fro, back and forth. That is known as periodic motion. Tabla or drum have stretched membrane. When it is struck, stretched membrane vibrates and produce periodic motion. Then so many examples are given in your textbook. The motion of a pendulum, a branch of a tree moving to and fro, motion of a child on a swing, the strings of guitar or the surface of drums or tabla being played, all are examples of periodic motion. So periodic motion produces sound. Then rotation of earth. It will repeat after 24 hours. Okay, rotation of earth, revolution of earth. For rotation, it will take 24 hours. After 24 hours, the same thing is repeating, day and night. So that is also an example for periodic motion. Then revolution of earth. It will take 365 and 1/4 day to complete one round around the sun. So after completing one round, the same process will continue. So that's also an example for periodic motion. The next one is rotatory motion. Here, it's a type of circular motion where the object spins on its own axis. The object will rotate or the object will spin on its own axis. That is rotatory motion. That is rotatory motion. So earth will rotate on its own axis. Earth will rotate on its own axis. So that's an example for rotatory motion. Then spinning top. It will spin on its own axis, or it will rotate on its own axis. Then fan. Movement will be there from its own axis. Pinwheel. Then spinning wheel. Then windmill. All these motions are examples for rotatory motion. So it will move, it will spin on its own axis. That is known as rotatory motion. The objects have rotational motion when it moves around an axis with a fixed path moving through different distances in a given time. So, that's about the rotatory motion. Then, one more point is there. When an object rotates, the distance from the center of the fan or the center of the clock will remain the same. Suppose if you mark a point here, this is the center, this distance will remain the same. This point when it rotates here, this point, that is the distance between this point and this one, will not change. When it rotates here, that distance remains the same and it will rotate. Okay. Rotational motion, the motion of a spinning top, the rotation of the earth on its own axis, the rotation of a windmill, the turning of potter's wheel, all those things are examples for rotatory motion. This one also an example for rotatory motion. A spinning top, giant wheel, spinning wheel, turbine, rotating fan, all these things are examples for rotatory motion. Now, certain objects are there, there will be more than one motion will be there. More than one motion will be there. More than one motion will be there in certain objects. Objects or actions having more than one type of motion. So, when you draw water from a well, the pulley on which the rope is put has circular motion. This one is having a circular motion, but the bucket is having a linear motion, means the bucket will go in a straight line. The bucket will go in a straight line, but this pulley will be having a circular motion. Then this one, when you turn this one, this will have rotational motion and also linear motion. When you throw a disc, it will rotate, and along the rotational motion, it's having linear motion. Linear motion means rectilinear motion itself. Linear motion means rectilinear motion itself. Then swaying machine. The needle of the swaying machine will oscillate, means periodic motion. It will repeat the motion after some time. But the wheel of the swing machine will be in circular motion. The same way, when you ride a bicycle, the bicycle is moving on a straight road, the wheels of the bicycle is rotating on its axle and also moving in the forward direction. So, it's having rotational motion and rectilinear motion. That I will show you here, this one. The wheel will rotate. So, it's having rotational motion. In the same way, it's moving forward. So, it's having rotational motion and rectilinear motion. Then, merry-go-round. Merry-go-round. As a whole, it shows rotational motion because it turns on an axle. But other part of the merry-go-round will show a circular motion. So, it's moving along the axis. So, it's having rotational motion. But the other part of the merry-go-round will show a circular motion. Here, the wheels, it will move in a rotational motion. Okay. So, the wheel will show rotational motion and straight line motion. Okay. So, that's about types of motion. 4 types are there: rectilinear, circular, periodic and rotational. Rectilinear means it will move in a straight line. Circular means it will move along the circumference of a circle or in a circular path. Periodic means that motion will repeat after some times. Rotational means it will rotate about an axis. The object will rotate about an axis. Okay. Thank you.